What happens when the world tells you you're nothing, only to discover you're everything they feared? For Sarah Moonwhisper, life as an Omega meant keeping her head down, her voice soft, and her dreams small. In the Silverpine Pack, Omegas existed at the bottom, servants to Betas, invisible to Alphas, and utterly disposable. For 22 years, she'd accepted this truth. She cleaned the pack house floors until her knees ached. She served meals to wolves who wouldn't meet her eyes. She endured the whispered insults, the casual cruelty, the loneliness that wrapped around her like a second skin. Her parents, both lower Betas, had long ago made peace with their daughter's rank. "The moon goddess gives us what we can handle," her mother would say, though her eyes always slid away when she said it. But when Alpha Rowan Blackthorn, the strongest wolf in 3 territories, the male every she-wolf desired, the future of the pack itself, stood before the entire assembly on the night of the Harvest Moon ceremony and declared Sarah his fated mate, everything changed. For one blazing, impossible moment, she felt the bond snap into place. Golden light erupted between them, the scent of forest and embers, and ozone and steel overwhelmed her senses. Her wolf, silent for so long she'd wondered if she even had one, stirred. "Mate," that inner voice whispered. "Ours." And what happens next? No one was prepared for. Because Rowan didn't smile. He didn't step forward to claim her. Instead, his lip curled. His gray eyes went cold as winter stone. And in a voice that carried across the packed ceremony grounds, across the assembled wolves who'd gone deathly silent, he spoke the words that would shatter her world. "I, Rowan Blackthorn, Alpha of Silverpine Pack, reject you, Sarah Moonwhisper, as my mate and future Luna. You are unworthy, you are weak, and I will not condemn this pack to be led by an Omega." Time stopped. The bond that had just formed, golden and new and fragile, didn't just break, it detonated. Sarah felt it like a physical blow, like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out her heart while it was still beating. She collapsed. The scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers that had surrounded her turned acrid, poisoned. Around her, the pack erupted into chaos. Some gasped, others laughed. A few looked away, uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. Rowan's chosen female, Kira Bloodmoon, a stunning alpha female with hair like midnight and a scent of cinnamon and iron and blood, stepped to his side, her hand possessive on his arm. "A wise choice, my alpha," she purred, loud enough for all to hear. "The pack deserves strength, not this." Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The pain was everything, a white-hot agony that started in her chest and radiated outward until even her fingertips burned. Through the haze, she heard her mother's voice. "Please, Alpha Blackthorn, she needs medical attention." "Remove her from Packlands," Rowan commanded, his voice devoid of emotion. "She is no longer one of us. She has until dawn to leave our territory. If she's still here when the sun rises, my guards have permission to enforce the exile. Permanently." 4 guards moved forward. Sarah tried to stand. Tried to find some shred of dignity, but her legs wouldn't hold her. They grabbed her arms, not gently, and began dragging her toward the edge of the ceremony grounds. Behind her, the celebration resumed. The rejection, it seemed, was not enough to ruin the Harvest Moon festivities. "Mom," Sarah gasped, turning her head desperately. "Dad, please." Her father stood frozen, his face pale. Her mother's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't move, didn't speak. The message was clear. They wouldn't defy their alpha, not even for their daughter. The guards hauled Sarah past the pack house, past the training grounds, past the residential streets where she'd grown up. Other Omegas watched from windows, their expressions a mix of pity and relief that it wasn't them. Betas turned away. Alphas smirked. At the territorial border, marked by ancient stone pillars carved with the pack's sigil, the guards finally released her. She hit the ground hard, the impact driving the air from her lungs. Pathetic, one of them muttered, orchestrated narrative progression through dramatic rejection and adversity sequences. I'm writing the story and need to continue through Act 1, which should be approximately 1,500 words. I'm currently around 700 words into the opening and rejection scene. I need to continue with the physical pain, public humiliation, her parents refusing to help, and her being cast out into lethal conditions. Let me continue the narration seamlessly. Should have known better than to dream above your station, Omega. They turned and walked away, their laughter echoing in the darkness. And Sarah was alone. Beyond the borders lay wilderness. No pack claimed these lands. They were too dangerous, too wild. Rogues prowled here, wolves who'd been exiled or abandoned their packs and gone feral. But worse than rogues were the natural predators. Bears, mountain lions, and in the deepest parts of the forest, things that even werewolves feared. In summer, a skilled wolf might survive out here. In autumn, with the nights growing cold and a storm rolling in from the north, Sarah pushed herself to her hands and knees. The bond severing had left her weak, feverish. Her wolf, who'd finally awakened only to be rejected, had gone utterly silent. She felt hollow, broken. "Get up," she whispered to herself. "Get up, Sarah. Just get up." But why? Where would she go? What did she have left? The first drops of rain began to fall. Cold. Heavy. Within minutes, it was a downpour. The temperature plummeted. Sarah's thin ceremony dress, the nicest thing she owned, the one she'd saved for months to buy, offered no protection. She stumbled forward into the darkness, no destination in mind. Survival instinct moved her legs when conscious thought couldn't. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning. The rain turned to sleet, then to snow. Of course, a freak autumn blizzard, the kind that came every few years and killed the unprepared. The moon goddess, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. Sarah's teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue. Blood filled her mouth. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore, couldn't feel her toes. The cold was inside her now, settling into her bones, wrapping around her heart. Each breath came harder than the last. Through the swirling snow, she spotted a shape, a structure. Hope flared weakly in her chest. She staggered toward it, half blind, and nearly sobbed with relief when she realized it was some kind of abandoned barn. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Half the roof had collapsed. But it was shelter. It was something. Sarah crawled inside and collapsed in the corner farthest from the door, where a few intact boards might block the wind. She curled into the smallest ball possible, trying to preserve what little warmth remained in her body. Her dress was soaked through. Her dark hair, usually carefully braided, hung in frozen chunks around her face. This is it, she thought. This is how it ends. Not with glory, not with love, not even with dignity. Just a rejected Omega freezing to death in a forgotten barn, unmourned and unmissed. "I'm sorry," she whispered to no one. To the moon goddess, maybe. To herself, to the life she'd never get to live. "I'm so sorry I wasn't enough." The cold stopped hurting. That was bad. She knew distantly. That meant the end was close. Her eyes drifted shut. The darkness that rose up to claim her was almost gentle, almost kind. Better than the cruelty she'd known. Better than... A sound penetrated the haze, deep, resonant, a growl that made the very air vibrate. Sarah's eyes flew open. Standing in the barn's entrance, massive and backlit by swirling snow, was a wolf. No, not just a wolf. The largest wolf she'd ever seen, easily 4 times the size of a normal alpha. Its fur was black as midnight, and its eyes glowed silver in the darkness. She should be afraid, should try to run. But she had nothing left. If death wanted her, let it come. The wolf stepped inside. Another followed, then another. Sarah's fading consciousness tried to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The barn filled with massive forms, each moving with predatory grace, each radiating power that made the air thick and heavy. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 wolves, all massive, all watching her with those unsettling, intelligent eyes. They formed a circle around her trembling form, not threatening, but protective? One of them, a female with silver-streaked fur, lay down directly in front of Sarah, blocking the wind from the door. Another, a scarred male with fur the color of storm clouds, pressed close to her back. Heat radiated from his body, blessed and impossible. One by one, the others settled around her, creating a living barrier against the cold. Sarah wanted to question it, wanted to understand. But the warmth was seeping into her frozen limbs, and consciousness was slipping away again. This time, though, it felt different. Not like death, like sleep. Just before the darkness claimed her, she heard it. A voice, deep and ancient and undeniably male, though it came from the largest wolf, the one with black fur and silver eyes who stood watch over them all. "We've been waiting for you, little matriarch. We've been waiting so very long." When Sarah woke, she was warm. That was the first shock. The second was that she was alive. The third was that she was still surrounded by massive wolves, their breathing synchronized, their bodies radiating heat like living furnaces. Dawn light filtered through the barn's broken roof. In that pale illumination, she could see them clearly now. They weren't normal wolves. That much was obvious. Their size alone defied nature, but it was more than that. Their fur seemed to shimmer slightly, as if each strand contained captured starlight. The scars that marked several of them looked ancient, the kind earned in battles that predated living memory. The black wolf, the leader, was awake and watching her. Up close, Sarah could see the intelligence in those silver eyes. Not animal cunning. Real, profound intelligence. "Am I dead?" she whispered. Her voice came out hoarse, raw. The wolf's head tilted. Then, in a shimmer of power that made the air ripple, he began to change. Sarah watched, transfixed and terrified, as the wolf's form blurred and shifted. Bones flowing. Not snapping, but flowing like water, finding a new shape. The fur receding, the size adjusting. In less than 30 seconds, where a massive wolf had been, a man now crouched. He was magnificent. Tall, broad-shouldered, with shoulder-length hair as black as his wolf form, and eyes that remained that striking silver. Scars marked his chest, his arms, each one telling a story of survival. He looked ancient and ageless all at once, power radiating from him in waves. His scent hit her then. Aged oak and winter snow and pine and storm, clean and wild and absolutely overwhelming. "No, little one," he said, his voice the same one she'd heard before losing consciousness. "You're very much alive, and it's about time." He stood, entirely unconcerned with his nakedness, and gestured. Another wolf shifted, this one becoming a tall female with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. She draped a cloak around the male's shoulders. He must be their leader, their alpha, and offered Sarah a blanket. "I'm Lycan," the female said gently. her scent a mixture of mountain air and wild sage. "That's Theron." She nodded to the scarred male wolf. "And this," she gestured to the black-haired man, "is Caden Stormbreaker, the Lycan King." Sarah's mind reeled. Lycan King? That was a legend, a myth. The story said that before packs, before territories, before the werewolf world fractured into 1,000 competing groups, there had been a king. A ruler who commanded not just wolves, but dire wolves, the ancient mythic protectors of their kind. "That's impossible," Sarah breathed. "The Lycan kings died out centuries ago." Caden's lips curved into a small smile. "We've been waiting. Sleeping, some might say. Guarding. The prophecy said we'd know when the time came to wake." His silver eyes bore into hers. "And then, 2 nights ago, we felt it. A bond forming and breaking, power being unleashed, the scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers, and pain. So much pain. You came for me?" Sarah couldn't comprehend it. "Why?" "Because," Caden said, kneeling so they were eye level, "you are what we've been waiting for. The prophecy spoke of you, little matriarch. It said, when the weakest is made strong through breaking, when the forgotten is remembered through pain, when the Omega becomes the Alpha of Alphas, the matriarch will rise. She will be marked by moonlight and bound by starlight. She will come when the packs have fallen to chaos, when strength is prized over wisdom, when the old ways are forgotten, and she will remake the world." Sarah stared at him. Then, despite everything, the pain, the fear, the impossibility of it all, she laughed. It came out broken and slightly hysterical. "You have the wrong wolf. I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I'm just an Omega who got rejected and cast out. There's no power in me. There's nothing special about—" "Your parents lied to you," a new voice interrupted. Another wolf had shifted, this one becoming a lean male with copper hair and sharp features. Or rather, they hid the truth. With good reason, probably. But the truth, nonetheless. "What are you talking about?" Sarah demanded, though her heart had begun to race. Caden reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he placed his palm against her sternum, right over her heart. Power thrummed between them, a resonance that made her gasp. "You feel that? That's your wolf, your real wolf. She's not weak, little matriarch. She's been caged, bound. Someone placed a suppression spell on you when you were very young, a powerful one, designed to hide what you are. Why would anyone—" "Fear," the copper-haired male said quietly. "Parents do desperate things out of fear. I'm Darius, by the way, tracker of this merry band." His scent carried notes of earth and copper, fitting for his name. Sarah's mind spun. A suppression spell? Her parents had. But that would mean— No, that doesn't make sense. If I had power, if I was anything other than an Omega, my wolf would have emerged at puberty. The moon goddess gifts us our wolves when we come of age. Unless something prevents it, Theron rumbled, speaking for the first time since shifting. His voice was gravelly, worn. The spell wouldn't erase your wolf girl. Just bind her, cage her, make her seem lesser. But why? Tears burned in Sarah's eyes. Why would they do that to me? That, Caden said softly, is a question only they can answer. But I can tell you this. The rejection broke the spell. When Alpha Blackthorn severed the mate bond, the pain and trauma shattered the magical binding that held your power in check. Your wolf is waking up, Sarah. And when she fully emerges, the packs are going to learn what it means to have underestimated you. As if in response to his words, something stirred deep inside Sarah's chest. Not the weak, timid presence she'd briefly felt during the ceremony. This was vast, powerful, ancient, a voice that rumbled like thunder and felt like moonlight. "Hello, little one. It's been so long. But I'm here now, and we have work to do." Sarah gasped, her hand flying to her chest. I can hear her. I can actually hear her." Lycan smiled. "That's just the beginning. The transformation will come in stages. First the voice, then the power, then the shift itself. It won't be easy, and it won't be quick, but we'll be here," Caden finished. "All of us, the Unchained Guard. We swore an oath millennia ago to protect the matriarch when she emerged, to help her reclaim what was lost, to stand at her side as she rebuilds our world." "I don't understand any of this," Sarah whispered. "Yesterday I was scrubbing floors. Today you're telling me I'm some kind of, what, prophesied queen?" "Not queen," Caden corrected, his silver eyes intense. "Matriarch, the first and the last, the one who comes when the world needs remade. And whether you understand it or not, whether you want it or not, that's what you are. The question is, what will you do about it?" Sarah looked around at the 10 massive forms, half shifted to human, half still wolf, who watched her with expressions ranging from hopeful to determined to fiercely protective. These strangers, these legends, had saved her life, had been waiting for her, believed in her when no one else did. Her inner wolf stirred again, stronger this time. "They speak truth," that ancient voice rumbled. "I am no Omega wolf. I am the mother of packs, the origin, the one who was before all others. And you, little Sarah, are my chosen vessel. Together, we will show them what they threw away." Power rippled through Sarah's body, making her skin prickle and her bones ache. Not with pain, but with potential, with possibility. "Okay," she said, her voice still shaky but growing stronger. "Okay, tell me everything. Tell me about the prophecy. Tell me about what I'm supposed to become. Tell me about—" She looked at Caden, at the intensity in his silver eyes, at the way he watched her like she was precious beyond measure. "Tell me about you, about all of you." Caden's smile widened. "We have time, little matriarch, all the time you need. But first," he nodded to Lycan, who produced a bundle of clothes from somewhere. "Let's get you properly warm and fed. Then the real work begins." Over the next hours, as snow continued to fall outside their makeshift shelter, the Unchained Guard told Sarah stories that rewrote everything she thought she knew about werewolf history. They spoke of a time before packs, when their kind lived in harmony under the guidance of a matriarch, a female wolf of immense power who could speak to all packs, who could enforce peace, who embodied the moon goddess's will. They told her how that first matriarch had been betrayed and killed, and how, with her death, the werewolf world had fractured. Packs formed, territories were claimed, the strong preyed on the weak. The hierarchy of Alpha, Beta, and Omega emerged, not as the moon goddess's design, but as corruption born from the matriarch's absence. "The prophecy said she would return," Darius explained, his copper eyes reflecting the small fire they'd built. "Not her specifically, but her legacy. Her power would be reborn in a female wolf when the world needed her most. And the signs would be unmistakable. She would be born to a pack, marked as lowest when she was highest. She would be rejected by one who should have cherished her. And in that rejection, her power would finally break free." "You're saying I'm the reincarnation of some ancient wolf queen?" Sarah asked, still struggling to process. "Not a reincarnation," Caden corrected. He sat across from her, close enough that his scent wrapped around her like a blanket. "The original matriarch's power. It's been dormant, waiting for the right vessel. You were born with it, Sarah. Your parents probably sensed something different about you as an infant, power that terrified them. So they sought out someone who could bind it, hide it, keep you safe from those who would kill a matriarch before she could come into her power. Sarah thought about her parents, her mother's nervous energy, her father's overprotectiveness, the way they'd always seemed almost afraid of her. If that's true, if they did this to protect me, why didn't they ever tell me? Fear makes people do foolish things, Theron rumbled. His scars seemed more pronounced in the firelight, each one a story of battles fought and survived. They probably thought they could keep you hidden forever, keep you safe by keeping you small. They were wrong, Sarah's wolf growled. The voice was getting stronger, more distinct. I will not be small. Not anymore. Out loud, Sarah asked, so what happens now? If I'm this matriarch, if I have all this supposed power, what do I do with it? Caden leaned forward, his silver eyes intense. First, you learn to access it. The binding is broken. But that doesn't mean the power will come easily. Think of it like a muscle you've never used. It needs to be strengthened, trained. We'll help you. And then? Then, Lycan said quietly, you decide what kind of world you want to build. The prophecy doesn't dictate your actions, Sarah. It just says you'll have the power to enact change. What that change looks like, that's up to you. Sarah's hands trembled. I don't know how to be powerful. I've spent my whole life being told I'm worthless. You were never worthless, Caden said fiercely. You survived. You endured. You kept your kindness despite everything they put you through. That's not weakness, little matriarch. That's strength they couldn't understand. His words settled over her like a balm. For the first time since the rejection, since the bond had shattered and her world had ended, Sarah felt something other than pain. She felt possibility. All right, she said, lifting her chin. Teach me. Help me become whatever I'm supposed to be. Caden's smile could have lit the darkness. It would be our honor. The training began immediately. Caden explained that the first step was establishing communication with her wolf, really communicating, not just hearing the occasional growl or whimper that most werewolves experienced. Your wolf is you, he said, guiding Sarah to sit cross-legged on the barn floor, while the guard formed a protective circle around them. She's not separate. She's not some beast you transform into. She's your true self, the part of you that the moon goddess blessed with her power. To access your full strength, you need to be in perfect harmony with her. Sarah closed her eyes, focusing inward. At first, there was only darkness. Then, slowly, she felt warmth, presence. Her wolf was there, massive and patient, waiting. Hello, Sarah thought tentatively. Hello, little Sarah, her wolf rumbled back, and there was such warmth in that ancient voice that Sarah nearly wept. I've missed you. Even bound and caged, I could feel your heart, your pain, your loneliness. I'm sorry I couldn't help you. It's not your fault, Sarah thought. We were both prisoners. No longer, her wolf said firmly. Now we are free. Now we will show them what we are. What are we? Sarah asked, because she still didn't fully understand. We are the beginning and the end, the mother of packs, the voice of the moon goddess herself. We are matriarch, and it is time to wake up. Power surged through Sarah's body like lightning. Her eyes flew open, glowing with an inner light that made several of the guard gasp. The scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers intensified. But now it was joined by something else, something that smelled like moonlight itself, silver and cold and beautiful. By the moon, Lycan breathed. Look at her eyes. Sarah looked down at her hands. They were glowing faintly, a soft, silver radiance pulsing beneath her skin. "What's happening?" "Your power is manifesting," Caden said, his voice thick with emotion. "Keep going. Don't fight it. Let it flow." Sarah did. She stopped resisting, stopped questioning, and just surrendered. The power rose like a tide, filling every cell, every nerve, every hidden place inside her that had been empty for so long. Her wolf's presence grew stronger, more solid, until Sarah couldn't tell where she ended and the beast began. And then it happened. The transformation started in her bones. Not breaking. Caden had been right about that. They flowed. Restructured, like water taking a new shape. Her spine curved, her hands shifted. Fur erupted along her arms, soft and thick and shimmering with that same silver radiance. It should have hurt, should have been agonizing, but instead it felt like coming home, like finding a part of herself she'd never known was missing. The shift continued. Her size increased dramatically, far beyond what any normal werewolf transformation should produce. The barn, which had seemed adequately spacious for the guard, suddenly felt cramped. Sarah's wolf form was massive, not quite as large as Caden's dire wolf shape, but far larger than any alpha she'd ever seen. Her fur was unusual, primarily white with silver undertones, like fresh snow under moonlight. But where her heart would be, a mark glowed, a complex symbol that looked like a moon surrounded by stars. The mark of the matriarch, Sarah somehow knew. The sign that she was the moon goddess's chosen. Her eyes, when she opened them, blazed with silver light. She could see everything, every detail, every color, every shimmer of power that radiated from the guard members. And the scents. The world exploded into a symphony of scents. She could smell the snow outside, the age of the wood in the barn, the individual signatures of each guard member. She could smell emotions, Caden's fierce pride, Lycan's gentle joy, Theron's approval, Darius's excitement. Beautiful, her wolf purred, their thoughts now perfectly synchronized. This is what we should have been all along. Sarah opened her mouth and howled. The sound that emerged was nothing like a normal wolf's cry. It was deeper, resonant, filled with power that made the very air vibrate. The barn's remaining roof beams shook. Snow cascaded from the trees outside. And in the distance, from the Silver Pine Pack territory, Sarah heard answering howls. Wolves, who felt that cry in their bones and responded without understanding why. When the howl faded, silence fell. The guard all stood in their wolf forms now, having shifted during her transformation. Each one lowered their massive heads in a gesture of respect and submission. Caden alone remained human. He walked forward slowly, one hand outstretched. When he reached Sarah's wolf form, he placed his palm on her snout. "Welcome, matriarch," he said softly. "We have waited so long to see you like this." Sarah wanted to respond, but found she couldn't form words in this shape. Not yet. That would come with practice. Instead, she simply leaned into his touch. Grateful beyond measure for these strangers who had become her salvation. Over the following days, the guard transformed the abandoned barn into a proper camp. They hunted, bringing fresh meat that Sarah devoured in quantities that would have shocked her human sensibilities. They built better fires, gathered more blankets, created a space that felt almost safe. And they trained her. Every day, Caden worked with Sarah on controlling her shift. The first transformation had been instinctual, driven by power that demanded release. But to be effective, she needed to shift at will, smoothly, quickly, in any situation. Again, Caden would say, and Sarah would shift from human to wolf, wolf to human, over and over, until her body understood the rhythm. It was exhausting work, draining both physically and mentally. But she could feel herself improving. The shifts became smoother, faster, less draining. Lycan taught her about pack dynamics and empathic abilities. As matriarch, you'll be able to sense the emotions of wolves around you, she explained. Not just feel them, understand them. Know when someone lies, when they're in pain, when they need help. It's one of your greatest gifts. They practiced on the guard members, with Lycan thinking of different memories, happy, sad, angry, while Sarah tried to identify the emotions. At first, she caught only vague impressions, but gradually the skill sharpened. She began to sense not just emotions, but intentions, loyalties, the truth beneath surface words. Theron focused on combat training. "You're powerful," he said bluntly, "but power without control is just destruction. You need to be able to fight, to defend yourself and others." In her wolf form, Sarah sparred with different guard members. She learned to use her size and strength effectively, to anticipate attacks, to strike with precision rather than wild fury. More importantly, she learned restraint, how to subdue without killing, how to intimidate without harming. Darius taught her about territories and tracking. "The werewolf world is vast," he said, showing her maps scrawled in the dirt. "Hundreds of packs, each with their own territory, their own laws, their own hierarchies. Many are corrupt, some are kind. You'll need to know how to navigate it all." And through it all, Caden taught her about command. "You have a power that others don't," he explained one evening as they sat by the fire. "The Alpha command is impressive. It makes pack members submit. But the matriarch's command? It's absolute. Any wolf, regardless of rank or pack affiliation, will feel compelled to obey. It's not mind control. They can resist if their will is strong enough, but very few have that kind of strength." "That sounds terrifying," Sarah admitted. "I don't want to control people." "And that's exactly why you'll be a good matriarch," Caden said, his silver eyes warm. "You don't want power over others. You want justice, fairness, a world where omegas aren't treated as trash and alphas aren't allowed to abuse their strength." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "That's the kind of leader the packs need." His touch sent warmth flooding through Sarah's body. Over the past days, she'd become increasingly aware of Caden, not just as her teacher, but as a male. A powerful, attractive, fiercely protective male whose scent made her wolf purr with interest. The mate bond she'd briefly shared with Rowan had been fated, a gift from the moon goddess. But Caden had explained that chosen bonds formed through genuine connection rather than mystical destiny, could be just as strong. Sometimes stronger, because they were built on free will and mutual respect. "Caden," Sarah said softly, "why did you really wait for me? Not just because of prophecy. Why you specifically?" He was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. Finally, he said, "I've been alive for a very long time, Sarah. Longer than you can imagine. I've seen civilizations rise and fall. I've watched our kind fracture and forget what we once were. And through it all, I've waited. Not just for the matriarch, but for her. For the one who would make the world make sense again. And you think I'm her?" Sarah's heart pounded. Caden turned to meet her eyes. "I know you are. The bond isn't fated. I want to be clear about that. I'm not claiming you because the moon goddess said so. But I've felt it growing these past days, and I think you have too. The connection between us, the rightness of it." Sarah swallowed hard. "I feel it. But Caden, I was just rejected. My fated mate threw me away like garbage. How do I trust this? How do I trust any of it? You don't have to trust it immediately, Caden said. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. I've waited millennia. I can wait a little longer while you heal, while you become who you're meant to be. And when you're ready, if you're ready, I'll be here. Tears pricked Sarah's eyes, but they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of gratitude, of wonder, of cautious hope. Thank you, she whispered. Caden smiled, and in that moment, backlit by firelight with his silver eyes gleaming, he looked like the king he claimed to be. Come on, he said, standing and offering his hand. The others are making dinner, and Theron's been threatening to eat your portion if you don't show up soon. Sarah laughed, actually laughed, something she hadn't done since before the rejection, and took his hand. As their fingers intertwined, power sparked between them. Not the explosive, uncontrolled bond with Rowan. This was gentler, warmer, a connection that promised partnership rather than possession. Days turned to weeks. The first snow of winter gave way to heavier accumulation, blanketing the forest in white. Sarah's power continued to grow. She could shift in seconds now, smooth as breathing. Her empathic senses had sharpened to the point where she could detect wolves from miles away, reading their emotional states like books. Her strength in wolf form rivaled even the guard's dire wolf shapes. But more than power, she'd found something she'd never had before. Family. The Unchained Guard, Caden, Lycan, Theron, Darius, and the 6 others, whose names and scents she now knew as well as her own, had become her pack. They teased her, challenged her, protected her, believed in her. For the first time in her life, Sarah felt like she belonged, and with belonging came confidence. The timid Omega, who'd scrubbed floors and accepted insults, was fading. In her place stood someone stronger, not harder. Sarah refused to let cruelty turn her cruel, but stronger, certain of her worth. You've changed, Lycan observed one morning as they worked on Sarah's healing abilities. Even just from when we found you, you carry yourself differently. Sarah considered this. I think I'm just finally becoming myself. The real me, not the one I was forced to be. The Silverpine Pack won't recognize you, Darius said with a grin. I almost pity them. Almost. But the mention of her old pack made Sarah frown. They don't know I'm alive. They probably think I died in the blizzard that first night. Would you want them to know? Caden asked carefully. Sarah's wolf stirred, her rumble edged with anger. They cast us out, left us to die. They deserve nothing from us. Out loud, Sarah said, I don't know. Part of me wants to walk away and never look back. But another part, she touched her chest. Another part thinks about all the other Omegas still there, still being treated like trash, still believing they're worthless. If I have the power to change that, don't I have an obligation to try? You do, Caden said firmly, but not yet. You're strong, Sarah, but you're not ready for the kind of confrontation that would require. The Silverpine Pack has over 100 wolves, many of them warriors. You'd need to face Rowan, Kira, and all those who watched you be cast out. That kind of situation. It needs to be handled perfectly. So what do? Theron's scarred face split into a rare smile. We wait. And we train harder. Because when you do face them, and you will, you won't just be strong enough to survive. You'll be strong enough to remake their world entirely. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Sarah was hunting, alone, because Caden had insisted she needed to practice self-sufficiency, when she caught an unfamiliar scent on the wind. Male, young, and terrified. She shifted to human, quickly dressing from the pack she'd learned to carry, and followed the scent. What she found made her blood run cold. A young wolf, barely more than a pup, maybe 12 years old in human terms, was cornered against a rock formation. 3 rogues, their mangy fur and wild eyes marking them as pack rejects who'd gone feral, circled him with obvious intent. "Please," the pup whimpered. "I didn't mean to cross into your hunting grounds. I'll leave. I swear, I'll leave." "Too late for that," one of the rogues growled. "This is our territory, and you smell like fresh meat." Sarah's vision went red. Her wolf surged forward with a snarl that promised violence. Attacking a pup? Unforgivable. She didn't even think. She shifted mid-stride, her massive white and silver wolf form exploding into being. The transformation was so fast, so smooth, that the rogues didn't register the threat until she was on them. Sarah hit the first rogue with the force of an avalanche, her jaws closing around his scruff. She didn't kill him, though her wolf wanted to, but she shook him hard enough to break ribs, then threw him aside. He hit a tree with a sickening crack and didn't get up. The second rogue lunged at her. Bad move. Sarah caught him mid-leap, her massive paws slamming him into the ground. She placed one paw on his chest, claws extended, and growled a warning that made his bladder release. The third rogue, smarter than his companions, turned and ran. Sarah let him go. The message had been sent. She shifted back to human, breathing hard, and turned to the pup. He stared at her with wide eyes, trembling. You saved me." "Are you hurt?" Sarah asked gently, crouching down to his level. No, just scared." He hesitated. "You're not from any pack I know. Your scent, it's strange. Beautiful but strange." Sarah smiled. "I'm Sarah. What's your name?" "Fen. I'm from Silverpine Pack." His eyes widened. "Wait. Sarah? Sarah Moonwhisper? But you're dead. They said you died in the blizzard months ago." "Not dead," Sarah said softly. "Just reborn. What are you doing so far from pack territory, Fen?" The pup's eyes filled with tears. "I was looking for herbs. My sister, she's sick, and the pack healer said there's a plant that grows near these rocks that might help. But I got turned around, and then the rogues." He buried his face in his hands. "I'm sorry. I'm such a useless Omega. I can't do anything right." Something in Sarah's chest cracked. This pup, so young, already believing he was worthless, just like she had. "You're not useless," she said fiercely. "You were brave enough to come out here alone to help your sister. That's not weakness, Fen. That's love." "But I'm an Omega," he protested. "That means "It means nothing," Sarah interrupted. "Listen to me, Fen. The hierarchy they've taught you, it's a lie. You're not less than anyone. Your rank doesn't define your worth. But everyone says everyone is wrong." Sarah stood, making a decision. "Come on. I'll help you find the herbs for your sister. And then I think it's time I pay a visit to Silverpine Pack." Fen blinked. "You're coming back? But they exiled you. If Alpha Rowan finds out you survived..." Sarah's smile was cold. "Oh, I'm counting on it. It's time Alpha Rowan learned that his biggest mistake wasn't just rejecting me. It was underestimating what I would become." They found the herbs quickly. Sarah's enhanced senses made tracking the specific scent easy. As Fen carefully gathered the plants, Sarah sent a mental call to Caden. The bond between them had grown strong enough that she could reach him over distances. "I'm coming back with a pup from Silverpine," she sent. "And I think it's time. I'm ready to face them." She felt his concern, his protective instinct flaring. "Are you certain? We can wait longer. Continue training." "No," Sarah replied firmly. "Every day we wait is another day Omegas like Fen suffer. Another day they believe the lies about their worth. I won't let that continue. A pause. Then we stand with you. All of us. When you're ready to face them, the unchained guard will be at your back. Thank you, Sarah sent, warmth flooding through the bond. I'll be home soon. Fen looked up from his gathering. You were talking to someone, in your mind. Sarah nodded. I have friends waiting, a family. They've been teaching me, helping me become who I'm supposed to be. And who are you supposed to be? Fen asked, his young voice curious rather than challenging. Sarah looked down at this pup, who reminded her so much of her younger self. Someone who makes sure wolves like you never have to risk their lives alone just to help someone they love. Someone who changes the rules. Someone who... She smiled. Who doesn't let anyone tell her she's worthless ever again. When they returned to the camp, the guard immediately went on alert at the sight of a silverpine pup. But Caden, reading the situation quickly, simply nodded to Lycan. The healer? I've got him, Lycan said, guiding the overwhelmed Fen toward the fire. Let's take a look at those herbs and make sure we have the right ones, shall we? Caden pulled Sarah aside. A scout? A pup, Sarah corrected, helping his sick sister, attacked by rogues. She met his eyes. He called me by name, Caden. They know I existed. They know I was rejected and exiled. They think I'm dead. And now one of their pups has seen you very much alive, Caden said slowly. Once he returns to pack territory. They'll know, Sarah finished, which means we need to be ready. Because Rowan won't just let this go. He can't afford to. A rejected mate who survived exile and gained power? That threatens everything he's built. Theron approached, his expression grim. If they come, they won't come alone. Rowan will bring his full force. Let him, Sarah said, and was surprised by the steel in her own voice. I'm not the terrified Omega he threw away anymore, and it's time he learned that. The decision was made. They would wait for 3 days to ensure Fen's sister received treatment, and the pup was strong enough to make the journey home. Then Sarah would send him back with a message. She was alive, she was powerful, and she was giving the Silverpine Pack one chance to come and face what they'd created. Those 3 days passed in intense preparation. The guard drilled combat formations, discussed strategies, prepared for every possible scenario. Sarah worked with Caden on her Alpha command, or rather, her Matriarch command, practicing until she could project authority that made even the ancient guard members feel compelled to submit. Fen watched it all with wide eyes. On the second day, he approached Sarah hesitantly. Can I ask you something? Of course. How did you stop being afraid? When I saw you fight those rogues, you weren't scared at all. Sarah considered this. I was terrified for the first 22 years of my life, she said honestly. Afraid of being hit, afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of being who I am. And then one night, everything I feared happened. I was rejected, humiliated, cast out to die. And when I survived that, when I woke up and realized the worst had already happened, and I was still here, the fear just seemed smaller, less important. But what if they hurt you again? They might try, Sarah acknowledged. But I'm not alone anymore, Fen. And I'm not weak. The person they could hurt is gone. In her place is someone who knows her worth, who has power not because of rank or title, but because she refuses to be small anymore. Fen's eyes were suspiciously bright. I wish I could be like you. You can be, Sarah said firmly. You already are, in the ways that matter. You risked your life for your sister. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing a person can do. On the morning of the third day, as Lycan finished wrapping the herbs for Fen's journey, Sarah knelt before the young pup. I need you to deliver a message for me. Can you do that? Fen nodded seriously, though she could smell his nervousness. Tell Alpha Rowan that Sarah Moonwhisper lives. Tell him that she has found her power, her purpose, and her pack. Tell him that in 3 days' time, at the ceremonial grounds where he rejected her, she will return. If he wishes to settle this peacefully, he will come alone with his council. If he chooses war, Sarah's eyes flashed silver, then war he shall have. Can you remember all that? Yes, Fen stammered. But are you sure? Alpha Rowan, he's really strong, and he has Kira now, and she's— I know what she is, Sarah said gently. Don't worry about me, Fen. Just deliver the message, and remember what I told you. Your rank doesn't define you. You define you. Fen hugged her suddenly, fiercely. Thank you for saving me, and for showing me that Omegas can be strong too. Sarah hugged him back, her heart aching for this pup and all the others like him. Go on. And Fen, take care of your sister. They watched him disappear into the forest, his small form soon swallowed by the trees. When he was gone, Caden moved to stand beside Sarah. 3 days, he said quietly. 3 days, Sarah confirmed, and then we see if Rowan has learned anything, or if he needs a more pointed lesson. He'll bring an army, Theron predicted. His pride won't let him do anything else. Then we'll face an army, Sarah said. Her wolf stirred, eager and ready. And we'll show them exactly what they threw away when they cast out their matriarch. The message, apparently, was delivered, because on the second day, Darius returned from a scouting mission with news. The Silverpine Pack was mobilizing. Over 20 wolves, all warriors, all led by Alpha Rowan himself. And marching beside him, her beautiful face set in cruel determination, was Kira Bloodmoon. They're not coming to talk, Darius reported. I counted at least 5 wolves carrying silver weapons. They're coming to put down what they see as a rogue threat. Sarah had expected this. Still, hearing it confirmed sent a chill down her spine. How long? They'll reach the ceremonial grounds by dawn tomorrow, if they maintain their current pace. Then we leave tonight, Caden decided. We set up our position, prepare the ground, and wait. When they arrive, they'll find us ready. That night, as the guard made final preparations, Caden pulled Sarah aside. They walked to the edge of the camp, where the firelight didn't quite reach. Tomorrow changes everything, he said quietly. Whatever happens at those ceremonial grounds, the world will know about you, about what you are. There's no going back after this. I know, Sarah said. I'm ready. Are you? Caden turned to face her fully. Because once you step into that arena as matriarch, you're accepting everything that comes with it. The power, yes, but also the responsibility, the burden, the weight of being the one everyone looks to. Sarah met his silver eyes. I've been worthless my whole life, Caden. I know what that feels like. If I have the chance to make sure other wolves never feel that way, if I can use this power to create a world where rank doesn't determine worth, then yes, I'm ready for the burden. Caden's expression softened. You're going to be magnificent. You already are. Will you? Sarah hesitated, then pushed forward. Will you stand with me tomorrow? Not as guard, but as my chosen? The bond between them, which had been growing steadily for weeks, flared bright. Caden's eyes widened. You're certain? We don't have to formalize anything yet. I meant what I said about waiting. I'm certain, Sarah interrupted. You've been patient and kind, and you've never made me feel like I owe you anything. But I want this, Caden. I want us. Not because of prophecy or duty, but because when I imagine the future, I can't picture it without you there. Caden closed the distance between them, his hands cupping her face. then yes, 1,000 times, yes, I will stand with you tomorrow, and every day after, as your chosen mate, your king consort, and your partner in whatever comes. When he kissed her, power erupted between them. The chosen bond snapped into place, not the explosive pain of the fated bond with Rowan, but something warmer, stronger, a connection built on respect and trust and genuine feeling. Silver light wreathed them both, and in the distance, several of the guard howled in celebration. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Sarah laughed. I suppose that makes it official. Very official, Caden agreed, his thumb tracing her cheek. And tomorrow, when you face Rowan and his army, they'll see that you're not the abandoned Omega he rejected. You're the matriarch, and you have a mate who will burn the world down before he lets anyone hurt you again. Let's hope it doesn't come to burning, Sarah said. But if it does, I'm glad you'll be there. They traveled through the night, the guard moving with predatory silence through the forest. By the time the first hints of dawn touched the sky, they had reached the ceremonial grounds. Sarah stood at the edge of the clearing where, months ago, Rowan had rejected her in front of the entire pack. The memory should have hurt. Instead, she felt only grim satisfaction. This place, where her old life had ended, would be where her new one was truly born. Positions, Caden ordered quietly. The guard dispersed, taking strategic locations around the clearing. They remained in human form for now, but ready to shift at a moment's notice. Sarah walked to the center of the grounds, to the raised platform where ceremonies were conducted. She could smell the silver pine wolves approaching, over 20 distinct scents, led by Rowan's forest and embers, and Kira's cinnamon and blood. Ready. Little one, her wolf asked. Ready, Sarah confirmed. The silver pine war party emerged from the tree line like a wave of fur and teeth. They stopped at the clearing's edge, forming a semicircle. In the center stood Rowan in his massive black wolf form, easily twice the size of his beta warriors. Beside him, Kira's russet wolf radiated aggression. Rowan shifted to human form, unconcerned with his nudity in front of his pack. He looked exactly as Sarah remembered. Tall, powerfully built, with short dark hair and those cold gray eyes. Kira shifted as well, her body lithe and beautiful, every inch the perfect alpha female. Well, Rowan said, his voice carrying across the clearing. The dead walk. How inconvenient. Hello, Rowan, Sarah said calmly. Kira, I see you've brought friends. A precaution, Kira purred. When dealing with rogues who don't know their place. I know exactly what my place is, Sarah replied. The question is, do you? Rowan's eyes narrowed. You should have stayed dead, Omega. Coming back here was a mistake. Was it? Sarah tilted her head. Or was your mistake rejecting your fated mate and throwing away the most powerful wolf in your territory? Laughter rippled through the silver pine ranks. Powerful? Kira scoffed. You're an Omega, the weakest of the weak, whatever delusions you've developed during your exile. Let me show you a delusion, Sarah interrupted. She let a fraction of her power leak out, just a taste. The scent of lavender and moonlight intensified. Her eyes began to glow silver. The laughter died. Several of the silver pine wolves took involuntary steps backward, their instincts screaming danger. Rowan's expression hardened. Parlor tricks. I don't know what you've done to yourself, but it doesn't change what you are. You were weak when I rejected you. You're still weak now. And you're trespassing on pack lands, which gives me the right to execute you as a rogue. Try, Sarah suggested pleasantly. That was apparently the signal Kira had been waiting for. With a snarl, she shifted mid-leap, her russet wolf form launching across the clearing with impressive speed. She was fast. Sarah gave her that. fast, and clearly trained for combat. But Sarah was faster. She shifted in less than a heartbeat, her massive white and silver wolf form materializing in Kira's path. When the russet wolf collided with her, it was like hitting a wall. Sarah didn't budge. Instead, she simply caught Kira by the scruff and with a contemptuous flick of her head, threw the other female across the clearing. Kira hit the ground hard, rolling several times before skidding to a stop. She struggled to her feet, dazed and clearly shocked. Sarah had moved so fast, struck with such power, that Kira hadn't even had time to defend herself. The Silverpine warriors stirred uneasily. Rowan's face had gone pale. Sarah shifted back to human, not bothering to cover herself. Let them see her scars, her strength, her absolute lack of fear. "Anyone else want to try? Or can we have an actual conversation now?" "What are you?" Rowan demanded, and for the first time, Sarah heard uncertainty in his voice. "I'm what you threw away," Sarah said. "I'm what your arrogance and your cruelty created. I'm the matriarch, Rowan, the one from the old prophecies, the one who was supposed to unite the packs and end the corruption." "And you," she laughed, cold and sharp. "You had her in your hands, given to you by the moon goddess herself, and you rejected her because she didn't fit your image of power." "That's impossible," Kira said, climbing back to her feet in human form. Blood trickled from her mouth. "The matriarch is a myth, a bedtime story." "Really?" Sarah's eyes flashed. "Then explain this." She shifted again, but this time she didn't stop at wolf form. She pushed, drawing on the depths of her power, and her wolf form grew, and grew, and grew. When the transformation completed, Sarah stood nearly 12 feet tall at the shoulder, larger than any dire wolf, her white and silver fur glowing with otherworldly radiance. The mark on her chest, the moon and stars symbol of the matriarch, blazed like a beacon. The Silverpine wolves fell back, several dropping to their bellies in instinctive submission. Even Rowan stumbled backward, his face shocked. From the tree line, the guard emerged. All 10 of them shifted to their dire wolf forms, each one massive, ancient, clearly not normal wolves. They formed a protective semicircle behind Sarah, their presence radiating power that made the Silverpine warriors look like pups by comparison. Caden was the last to shift, his black, dire wolf form with silver eyes taking position directly at Sarah's side. His scent, oak and snow and storm, mingled with hers, and even those who didn't understand pack bonds could see the connection between them. "Show them," Caden's voice echoed in her mind through their bond. "Show them what they threw away." Sarah threw her head back and howled. The sound was like before, deep, resonant, filled with power that vibrated in the bones of every wolf present. It was the howl of a matriarch, a call that demanded recognition from all who heard it. And the Silverpine wolves responded. They couldn't help it. One by one, against their will and their alpha's commands, they shifted to wolf form and lowered themselves in submission. Even Kira, fighting it with everything she had, eventually succumbed and pressed her belly to the ground. Only Rowan remained standing, his body shaking with the effort of resisting. "No," he gritted out through clenched teeth. I won't bow to an Omega." Sarah shifted back to human, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority when she spoke. "You don't bow to an Omega, Rowan. You bow to your matriarch. You bow to the one you were fated to protect and instead destroyed. You bow because every instinct you have is screaming that I am your superior. So bow." It was a direct command, backed by her full power. Rowan fought it for perhaps 10 seconds, longer than anyone else had managed. But in the end, biology and magic were too strong. He dropped to one knee, his head lowering, his gray eyes burning with humiliation and rage. "Mercy," he forced out. "By pack law, I ask for mercy, matriarch." Sarah walked forward until she stood directly in front of him. "You want mercy? The way you showed me mercy when you threw me out to die? The way you've shown mercy to every Omega in your pack, treating them like garbage? The way Kira showed mercy when she mocked me as I was dragged away?" "I made a mistake," Rowan said, and she could hear the truth of it in his voice. Not remorse, but recognition. "I didn't know what you were. If you had known, you would have used me like a weapon," Sarah interrupted. "Don't pretend this is about regret, Rowan. You only care because I'm powerful now. If I were still weak, you wouldn't give me a second thought." Silence fell. Rowan had no answer to that, because they both knew it was true. Sarah turned, addressing the entire Silverpine pack. "I could kill you all, every single one of you. You came here with weapons, with the intent to murder someone you thought was a rogue. You were willing to execute me without trial, without mercy, just because I had the audacity to survive what you did to me. I would be within my rights to destroy you." Fear rippled through the assembled wolves. "But I won't," Sarah continued, "because I'm not you. I don't believe in punishing the weak for the crimes of the strong. Most of you are just following orders, living by the only system you've ever known. That's not your fault." She turned back to Rowan. "But you, Alpha Blackthorn, you had a choice. You had a fated mate, a gift from the moon goddess, and you threw her away because she didn't meet your standards of perfection. That kind of arrogance, that kind of cruelty, it needs to be answered." "What do you want?" Rowan asked hoarsely. "I want you to step down as Alpha," Sarah said. "Permanently. I want you to live among the Omegas you've spent years degrading. I want you to understand, truly understand, what you've put them through. And I want you to help rebuild this pack into something better. And if I refuse?" Sarah smiled, cold and sharp. "Then I take your pack by right of challenge. I become Alpha of Silverpine, and you become Rogue. Your choice." Rowan stared at her, clearly warring with his pride and his survival instinct. Finally, he said, I submit to your judgment, matriarch." "Smart choice." Sarah looked at Kira, who was still belly down in the dirt. "And you, Kira Bloodmoon, you were so eager to mock an Omega, so quick to celebrate her suffering. I sentence you to serve as Omega for 1 full year. You'll do all the tasks you thought beneath you. You'll experience firsthand the contempt and casual cruelty you were so happy to dish out. Maybe it'll teach you empathy. Probably it won't. But you'll do it anyway." Kira's eyes blazed with hatred, but she didn't dare speak. Sarah addressed the pack again. "Here are the new laws for Silverpine territory. First, the hierarchy of Alpha, Beta, and Omega is abolished. Wolves will be valued for their skills, their character, and their contributions, not their genetics. Second, mates will be chosen, not assigned. Fated bonds will be honored if both parties wish it, but no one will be forced into any relationship. Third, any wolf who abuses their power over another will face exile. No exceptions. And fourth, this pack will contribute to the greater good of all werewolf kind, not just hoard resources for yourselves." She let power wash over them again, sealing the command with her authority as matriarch. "These laws are now pack law. Break them at your peril." The wolves of Silverpine stared at her, some with awe, some with fear, some with dawning hope. Especially the Omegas, who looked at Sarah like she was the answer to prayers they hadn't dared voice. "Now," Sarah said, her voice gentler. "I know change is difficult. I know many of you have lived your whole lives under the old system. But I'm not your enemy. I'm offering you a chance at something better. A world where your worth isn't determined by your rank. Where power is used to protect, not oppress. Where every wolf, regardless of their designation, has value. She paused, then added, I won't be staying here. I have work to do across many territories, many packs. But I'll be appointing a council to help guide Silverpine's transition. And I'll be checking in regularly. If I find that these laws aren't being followed, if I discover that Omegas are still being abused, there will be consequences. Am I clear? A chorus of, yes, matriarch, echoed across the clearing. Sarah nodded, satisfied. She shifted back to her massive wolf form, and the guard closed ranks around her. Together, they began to walk toward the forest edge. But before they left, Sarah turned back one last time. She found Fen in the crowd, the young pup who'd started all this. Their eyes met, and she sent him a private thought. You're going to be okay now. All of you are. Be brave, little one. The world is changing. Fen's eyes widened. Then he grinned, his tail wagging slightly despite the tension. And then Sarah and her guard disappeared into the forest, leaving the stunned Silverpine pack to process what had just happened. Miles away, as the sun rose fully above the horizon, Caden shifted back to human. The others followed suit, and they stood in a circle in a small clearing. Well, Theron said with a rare smile. That went better than expected. I half thought we'd have to fight all of them. The matriarch's power is absolute, Lycan said, looking at Sarah with pride. They couldn't resist once she demonstrated what she truly is. Sarah, still processing the enormity of what had just happened, shook her head. I didn't want to dominate them. I wanted to free them. You did both, Caden said, pulling her into his arms. You showed them strength they couldn't ignore, and then you used that strength to dismantle the system that was hurting them. That's exactly what a matriarch should do. Darius cleared his throat. So? What now? We've announced your existence. Word will spread. Other packs will hear about this. Good, Sarah said firmly. Let them hear. Let every pack know that the matriarch has returned. Let every Omega know that their suffering has an end date. Let every corrupt alpha know that their days of unchecked power are over. She pulled back from Caden, looking at each member of her guard, her family, in turn. We're going to travel to every territory. We're going to offer them the same choice I gave Silverpine. Change willingly or be changed by force. We're going to rebuild the werewolf world into what it should have been all along. That's a tall order, Theron observed. I know, Sarah said, but I'm not doing it alone. I have the Unchained Guard. I have my chosen mate. And I have power that was gifted to me for exactly this purpose. We can do this. We will do this. Caden's hand found hers, their bond humming with shared determination. Then let's begin. The matriarch has risen. It's time to remake the world. And so Sarah Moonwhisper's journey truly began. She was no longer the discarded Omega, the rejected mate, the wolf who everyone said was worthless. She was matriarch, mother of packs, voice of the moon goddess, and the one who would bring justice to a broken world. In the weeks and months that followed, word of the matriarch spread like wildfire. Some packs welcomed her with open arms, grateful for the reforms she brought. Others resisted, clinging to their old ways until they faced the overwhelming power of the Unchained Guard and had no choice but to submit. Sarah discovered more about her abilities with each passing day. She could heal wolves who were injured, sensing their pain and mending their wounds with focused will. She could detect lies and read emotions with perfect clarity. And when necessary, she could command entire packs to her will, though she used that power sparingly, preferring to convince rather than compel. Her bond with Caden deepened. They became true partners, ruling together, she with her empathy and reform, he with his ancient wisdom and tactical mind. The other guard members each found their roles, Lycan as diplomat, Theron as war master, Darius as intelligence gatherer. And through it all, Sarah never forgot where she came from. She made special trips to meet with Omegas in every pack she visited, listening to their stories, validating their pain, and ensuring they knew their worth. She became a symbol of hope for every wolf who'd been told they were lesser. The story would not end there, of course. There were still challenges ahead, packs that would resist more violently, ancient enemies who would emerge from hiding, and the constant work of maintaining the new order she'd created. But for the first time in centuries, the werewolf world had hope. They had a matriarch. They had a leader who cared about justice, not just power. And they had Sarah Moonwhisper, who proved that sometimes the greatest strength comes from surviving what should have broken you, and choosing to use that strength to protect others, rather than seek revenge. As Sarah stood on a cliff overlooking the territories, she was slowly transforming, with Caden at her side and the guard at her back. She thought about that night, when everything had fallen apart. When Rowan had rejected her and left her to die. When she'd been nothing but a broken, discarded Omega with no future. He'd made a mistake. He hadn't just rejected his fated mate. He'd unleashed the one force that could change everything. And what happens next? The rebuilding of the werewolf world, one pack at a time. The rising of Omegas who'd been told they were worthless. The fall of Alphas who'd abused their power. The creation of something new, something better, something worthy of the moon goddess's blessing. Sarah smiled, feeling her wolf stir contentedly within. She was no longer the Omega who'd scrubbed floors and accepted cruelty. She was the matriarch. She was the beginning and the end. She was the change the world needed, and she was just getting started. The transformation taught her that strength doesn't come from never being broken. It comes from choosing to put yourself back together and using your scars to help others heal. She learned that the moon goddess's greatest gifts sometimes come wrapped in rejection and pain, and that true power lies not in dominating others, but in lifting them up. But as the blood moon began to rise on the horizon, a celestial event that occurred only once every century, Sarah felt a stirring of something else. A warning. An ancient power waking in response to her own rise. The matriarch had returned, but so too would those who'd wanted her kind extinct in the first place. The next chapter of her story was about to begin, and this time, the stakes would be even higher. What do you think? Could an Omega truly become the most powerful wolf in existence? Could one rejected mate reshape the entire werewolf world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story of transformation, betrayal, and ultimate triumph, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with anyone who loves a good underdog story. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of Sarah's journey. Because trust me, what's coming next will shake the foundations of everything she's built. Ancient enemies are stirring, old prophecies are awakening, and the blood moon brings with it a darkness that even a matriarch might not survive. Thank you for listening to this tale of redemption and power. We'll see you in the next chapter, where the real challenges begin. Until then, remember, you're never as weak as others claim, and you're never as powerless as you've been made to feel. Sometimes, like Sarah, you just need to be broken to discover how strong you really are.